bow fishermen aren't having any major impact out here on the Three Rivers when it comes to flathead catfish.
That's good. That's good to know, and I'm sure it's good for a lot of you guys to hear too.
Same with channels. I didn't really touch much on the channel numbers, but it's not uncommon for us to find 10 to 15-year-old, even up to 25-year-old channel catfish. We also have some of the oldest channel catfish in the country out here as well.
It's crazy.
30-year-old fish are present in some of our waters out here.
I know I caught a big one time at flathead fishing, and I can just tell he was old. He was over 20 pounds, and he looked like it. Like had wounds all over him. Just
typically, those bigger fish are going to be in the 15 to 20-year-old range. We see some very, very interesting growth patterns with our channel catfish out here. They typically grow fairly quickly up to about 15 inches. It only takes them 4 to 5 years. And a lot of times they just plateau. Maybe that there's just so many of them that their competition with each other causes their growth rates to just bottom out. We don't see that in some of the lakes around here. We have lakes where 7 to 8-year-old fish that are pushing 30 inches.
yeah.
We also have lakes where we have 17-inch fish that are over 30 years old. So it's highly variable by the individual population.
But all right, well, to wrap up the kind of laws portion of this, this is one that me and you have briefed on before, and a lot of people are interested in this too. As a lot of you know, there's 0 regulations on flathead catfish. You can harvest 50 a day per species, I believe, between channel cat and flathead.
Yeah, it's a 50 per day limit
Okay.
for catfish with no minimum size.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
the regulation.
but and your data kind of shows that they're fine and everything's good to go with the population. I mean, you guys have seen, you as a catfish angler too, you're seeing the explosion in catfishing in our area, across the state.
For sure.
Just like it is everywhere else in the country. That scares me, not having these fish protected. I understand there's not a problem now, but my whole thing is, why wait until there is a problem to enact any type of regulations to protect them when it takes so long for these, as we talked about, it takes so long for these fish to get big? It just scares me, do you foresee ever having limits or regulations on flathead catfish in Pennsylvania?
So
on the western side of the state?
That's one of the things that we're going to address in the next catfish plan update, which I'm going to be one of the co-authors on that, be drafting over the next year or so. We've looked at these mortality rates, and what it tells us right now is that it's essentially a catch and release fishery for the most part. There are a few anglers who harvest a few fish here and there, but when you have mortality rates in the single digits, under 5%, some of that is harvest, maybe 1 or 2%, and another natural mortality, another 2 to 3%. It tells me right now that the anglers are doing a very good job at policing themselves and not overfishing the population.
Yeah.
That said, there are some things that we can look at to further determine if more harvest is going to happen, as well as what's called different types of modeling. So we can look at, with our current situation of our current regulations, what would happen if exploitation starts to increase? How fast would that take down the population, and what regulations would need to be enacted to potentially prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
That said, with the current rate of harvest being negligible, it may be a few years before we consider something like that. We're going to have to run some of these modeling scenarios. Another thing we're going to be doing is, beginning in 2022, is we're going to be doing a creel survey on the Ohio River. We're going to be looking at both the Montgomery and the New Cumberland pools. This is part of a joint survey with all the other Ohio River states. We're going to be doing a creel survey for the entire year up and down the river. This also be in conjunction with a full-out catfish survey. So each other state, as far as I know of as of now, the last time I talked with everyone, with all the other biologists, we had plans to do that in 2022. And this involves looking at multiple gear types, setting different types of nets, electrofishing, and looking at our catfish populations and our numbers. We compare them to the previous years that we've done similar type of work to see if catch rates decline. The creel survey will also give us information on how many fish our anglers actually harvesting. I mean, we could go out there and find very minimal harvest of flathead catfish, and that will give us an idea that maybe we don't need the regulations at this time. If we do end up in one case or another putting on more restrictive regulations, I would caution people to not think that this is going to be like a massive explosion in the numbers of flatheads. It would be more of a precautionary measure that would potentially prevent any future overharvest, which may or may not ever happen out here. The numbers are pretty high already. They're not as high as they are in the lower river, where it's more productive, but they are pretty good, and I still think there is room for the population to continue to grow. I mean, you do have to consider what these rivers were like 50 years ago, and even up to like 30, 40 years ago. So.
All right. Well, again, I just wanted your thoughts on that, because, and it's awesome to hear that they're doing great out here. They're living super long lives. But it also just kind of scares me, and like you had brought up too, just precautionary. Like we're just wondering, like if that's a possibility in the future, just to protect them. And there's not a lot of people harvesting, but let's at least maybe give them a little, try to get them to, if they're going to harvest, to keep the smaller ones and keep those bigger ones, those bigger guys out in the river.
Certainly something that would possibly be considered is having, a potential limit on the number of fish over a certain size.
Yeah, that would be. I know we'd be thrilled with that. Just to know, just to know. Yeah. I mean, just to have peace of mind to know that they're kind of protected, and to know that the state kind of wants them to be protected. I think that's more of a thing too. Like a lot of people look at catfish as just like trash and junk fish, and I know you don't.
No,
you love them. You love catching them. You love studying them and all that, just like I do. But
I pretty much fish for two things. I fish for flathead catfish, and I fish for bait.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of us. I told you.
that's what I fish for.
It'll just to know, that the state sees what we see in these fish. It'd be nice to see them kind of step up to say, hey, we are going to protect these fish and make sure these trophies are going to be here for your kids to come fish for and all that stuff. All right, Mike, I got a question for you. It seems like every other year now the state record is starting to get broken. That 48-pounder several years ago held for a while, but that's in the past now, and I believe the state record's 56
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you think the next state record is going to come? Do you think we have a shot over here in the western side of the state, or do you think those Susquehanna guys has got our number?
I definitely think we have a shot. I mean, there's fish out here that we've surveyed that are. I'm pretty certain we got a 50-plus pounder last year. I know of some guys who've caught some fairly large fish out here in the Pittsburgh, in the Pittsburgh vicinity. I've heard of fish over 50 pounds from them on as well. Does it take a little longer for them to get that size out here? Yes, for sure. The Susquehanna and even the Schuylkill River, as well as the Delaware River now, are starting to, they all have faster growth rates out there.
Yeah.
They're all, an invasive species out there. They're exploiting new habitat, and their growth rates are just a lot faster. We've got 5-year-old fish that are 35 inches out there on the Susquehanna.
It's almost not fair.
So
we got a chance.
I think we have a chance.
We just got to put a little extra time in on the water.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if one of the state records would come from one of the lakes that we have. Places like Blue Marsh have. The spillway was where the old state record did come from. Shenango River Lake up around here.
What do you think about Pymatuming? A good friend of mine just busted up in the 40s, and I've heard of another good friend of mine last year, I believe, caught a 50 or 52 pounder up there.
They seem to have a very low density population, and the fish have tremendous amount of forage in that lake. Anything from shad, to carp, quillback, plenty of walleye and crappie in there. So I just don't know how many people are really targeting flatheads as much as the channel population up there.
The majority of the ones I know of are kind of accidental. They're channel catfishing. I mean, I have a good buddy of mine, Mark. I know he's up there putting in time. He's specifically targeting flatheads, but a lot of those guys are just targeting channel catfish and that bycatch, and just all of a sudden think they have the state record channel cat on. It's a big flathead. And
there's some giant channels in there. I saw some up at the spillway last week, and they were as long as my arm, if not longer. Eating bread with the carp. So.
All right. Well, hey, maybe tonight we'll get the state record.
I would like to think so. I've been trying that for years, and
as you guys could probably assume, after our interview here, we're going to go hit the river for a little bit and see if we can get that state record and bring it back to the western side of the state. We got a shot. I don't know. Who knows?
We're going to try our best.
That's all we can do. I wanted to save this for last. What's the deal with blue catfish? Are we ever going to see them over here again in our rivers? Is there any plans in place? Do you want to elaborate and tell us what you can about that?
Sure. So for those of you who don't know, blue catfish are native to Pennsylvania's Three River system. They were historically found in the lower Ohio River, pretty much the entire length of the Mon, actually the entire Ohio River in Pennsylvania, the entire Mon and the lower Allegheny River. What lower exactly means, I kind of take it as around the Kiski River and below. Okay. But not 100% on that exactly. 1800s, early 1900s, the Three Rivers were dammed. There was tremendous amount of pollution coming in from the industries, coal, steel mills. It pretty much wiped out the Mon River, much of the Ohio River. There were fish kills all the time on the Allegheny River. And a lot of the species in the Three Rivers were wiped out. Blue catfish were completely eliminated. Now, over the past 120 years or so, many of the species have come back to Pennsylvania. However, blue catfish haven't been one of those. So, about 15, 20 years ago, our neighbors down in West Virginia started a restoration program because the blue catfish was also eliminated from much of the Ohio and West Virginia portions of the Ohio River as well. So they've had quite a bit of success stocking fingerlings throughout much of their portion of the river. Joe can attest to that. He's caught some nice blues down there. And they're starting to really provide a quality fishery, particularly in the lower, the middle Ohio, down in Parkersburg and below. And to the extent that they've actually started to document natural reproduction down there. Well, around 2013 or so, a former biologist of ours, Bob Venerini, was able to convince West Virginia to throw around 45,000 fish total over 3 years into the New Cumberland pool. In 2017, we did our first survey targeting those. We didn't catch any. Used a variety of different gear types up and down the Ohio River. 2019, we got our first confirmed report of a blue catfish. It took 6 years basically from the first stocking. Once again, there's no guarantee that fish came from those stockings. It's just highly likely. Blues have been known to swim quite a distance upriver. 2020, we started getting quite a few more reports. I think I had around 15 documented reports of blues captured all the way from around the state line down here on the New Cumberland pool up into as of now we've even documented them up into the Monongahela River. So they've been captured in almost all, I think 3 out of the 4 pools on the Ohio River. So we did another survey last year and part of this year. We still haven't caught any ourselves. However, I was tasked with writing up a potential restoration plan for blue catfish. At this time, it's in internal review with our agency, so I can't really go into any details at this time. However, once that is finalized, hopefully it will be soon by the end of the year, we will be able to share that information with you guys.
Okay, so we still have hope.
There's always hope.
Okay. And we might have good news next year, we might not, but there's a chance to have good news next year. So let's all keep our fingers crossed. All right.
Okay.
We'll end it there, Mike. I really appreciate you sitting down with me and all my subscribers on YouTube and anyone else who finds this video. It's awesome. I love talking with you. You're full of knowledge, and again, I just appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
All right, guys. Well,
appreciate the dedication and the appreciation that you have towards these fish, and the way you care for them so much.
I love them, man. And that being said, let's go out and hit the river.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, guys. Thank you. There it is. Fish on. All right. I was losing hope on this spot. We've only been here
that long.
I know, we've only been here like 6 minutes.
I'll
get this rod out
the other way.
Yeah, bring them on that side to get them off that other anchor.
No problem.
All right, let me get the net. That was cut bait, huh?
Golden shiner.
Golden shiner. Nice.
They do bite golden shiner.
Yeah, that's good. Finally, the experiment has paid off.
That's good because it's.
Does it feel decent?
Yeah, he feels like a decent fish.
Once you get him a little closer, actually, you can keep him right there. There's no current. I can net him. So.
I can get him down this way. He's coming down this way anyway.
Looks like he's going over toward that anchor.
I'm trying to keep him away from that, but he's stubborn.
Have I mentioned I hate putting back anchors down whenever?
Yeah.
What do we got here?
We have a fish.
At least it's a flathead. That's the same rod you always catch them on?
Yeah, you know, it's
This scene looks familiar with
It
you
does.
standing there with that rod buried. Oh, I just got whacked on my rod 3.
well, that's good.
Yeah, get a double. He's going upriver on you.
He's going wherever he wants.
I like that.
Good fish.
Drag. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Some drag.
Number 3. 1 second fish on 3. Let me get this one in the net first. I don't care, I can go down now for all I care. That'd be awesome.
He's just peeling drag. Oh! I didn't see that coming.
Man.
It's got some fight.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the
Oh yeah. All right, let me get in the netting position.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a big fish. Hey, every time I come out.
Paid your dues for last year.
Yeah. I don't think I caught anything.
Oh, it seems like he's
I really look forward to this.
here. Can I put that in the rock holder? I'll like lift this up. That's a big fish, dude. Yeah, it's another tank.
That is a tank.
All right, our first fish of the trip. Yep.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid fish.
That's the mid-30s.
Yeah, that's a nice healthy. Look at those little lice
Yeah.
on them. Oh, here goes nothing.
That's, oh my God, it's your fish. I hate to take the joy out of this part. Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Man, he's super fat.
Is a fat one. That's
That was cut golden shiner.
there's a first for everything.
Yeah, it's a bait we don't use too often, and when we do, we don't have too much luck.
I believe that is the first fish we have caught on a golden shiner this year.
Well, we've tried a handful of times too. Look
Yeah.
at that fish.
I had some last year too.
That's a beast, dude. That might be
That's a
bigger
solid
than
fish.
bigger than I think.
That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good solid fish.
All right, guys, we're gonna get a picture and a weight on this guy. That's a beast, son.
Makes my day.
Hell yeah, dude. Way bigger than I anticipated. First fish of our trip here. He's mid-30s.
34 pounds.
Going back in the river.
Look at
Oh
that
my God.
flathead.
That's a giant.